do need to understand that if you continue to lose feeling in a limb, it can lead to amputations.
Yeah, I just had one.
Oh my God.
So I said that
I
picture.
sure
I
had
said her
foot.
Both. I am so sorry we didn't get this information to you sooner.
I know.
I'm told to avoid that at all costs because it'll still hurt after you take it off.
You can get phantom
Yes,
limb
it
pain. Are you experiencing? Yeah.
On this foot. I
On
just
that
had
foot.
this one done 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't like removing toes isn't free, is it? No. They charge, and I don't know if you got to kind of lighten a little bit here because it is extremely serious.
Mhm.
I want to say it's around $5,000 to remove a toe. If I paid you $100,000, would you let me take your foot? Like no, but I understand there are reasons why that may need to happen if the tissue is dying, right? And you need to save the rest of the foot or what have you. Like there are reasons for that. But that's where this can go. I don't like to harp on that. But you do need to understand if you're in a type 2 diabetic, then the risk category is higher for that. And that's the insidious thing with neuropathy, is that as you get further into the disease process, you typically lose feeling and you think, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing better because I don't feel the same things anymore. But usually that's actually you're getting worse, and it can be a slow process. So I'm sorry you've been through all that. I'm glad you're here today because you're going to learn some extremely valuable things on how to keep the rest of those things, okay? So let's keep going. Bottom line is they're managing symptoms for you, right? Who's kind of tired of being symptom managed? You're here for something different. That's what we're going to show you, all right? So, unfortunately, too, that's the kind of stuff that insurance companies will pay for. They're not going to contribute to you getting well and staying well. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Similar to your car, right? Does your insurance, your car insurance pay for you to have oil changes and maintenance and tire rotation, all the things that keep your car running? They only pay if you're in a wreck, like a major sort of scenario, right? Same idea with your healthcare. It's not going to pay for you to keep running things well. That's up to you to maintain. And Medicare has said if it's a chronic condition, they're not paying for it. And is Medicare out there to contribute to your best interest, or they're just trying not to go bankrupt? Right? They're just trying to keep every penny they've got. So they're not forthcoming with some of the new technology, and that old way of thinking doesn't work, but that's the model we're in. Raise your hand if you think that's going to change in our lifetime. I hope you're right, Rick. I really hope you're right. But chances are that Medicare is not changing anytime too soon. But bottom line is, the options that the standard medicine has is symptom management. And there has some value, but it doesn't fix the problem. And that's why you're here today, right? So let's learn about what that is. Typically, though, you start losing quality of life. Has anybody you can't travel as much as you want to, you losing some hobbies, or things aren't quite as fun as they used to be, right? You stop living. This was my anniversary trip last summer. We went to the Finger Lakes in New York, and I saw this flight of steps. I was like, man, a lot of my patients would hate to see this. I shouldn't really say a lot of our patients, they now welcome the challenge, which is kind of fun. But, initially it can be overwhelming. Like, oh man, but then you miss the beauty on the other side. It just really stood out to me going, I realized that it's a major challenge for a lot of people, even just basic walking, right? Walking around or sleeping at night or right these kind of where you guys are at. Yeah. So have you ever wondered what it would be like without this now? If life could be different again, what would that look like? So I want you to give you some hope today. So there has to be a better way of doing things, right? That old model is broken, it doesn't work, and it's not actually helping you reverse the problem. So what's the better way? Before we get into that one, I want to tell you that I never wanted to be a neuropathy expert. I never wanted to be here next to Nancy going, here's how you work on neuropathy, right? So I never went to school and said, hey, sign me up to be a neuropathy expert. I can't imagine like proctologists that want to go to school for that. I'm grateful for them, but that was never, it was more of a calling for me. Has anybody ever learned the hard way? School of Hard Knocks, you learn some things? Yeah. So let me share that story with you on how that happened. Whoops, I clicked the button a little too soon. So my dad is a Vietnam veteran, served 2 tours. He was on 101st Airborne, which means he jumped out of perfectly good airplanes a lot and did a lot of crazy things, thankfully, he never told me about. But that being said, he also was a really kind man, had a heart of gold. And our neighbor was having a litter of puppies. And so he went up to the garage, to the 2nd floor, and got the kennel out to help out the neighbor. And he's coming down the stairs. He lost his balance. And if you know anything about Agent Orange exposure, right, that's poison for the nerves. Toxic chemicals can be an influence on the nerve system. And for him, that was part of what was leading to his problems. But he wouldn't tell us how challenging it was because he's a tough guy. He didn't handle it. With that being said, he fell. And he broke his neck. And he was on those steps for over an hour before we knew. Because we thought he was going to help out the neighbor. And so my mom called. She said, hey, your dad fell. We're going to the hospital. But she was in shock. And it didn't really translate. Like, this is a big deal. Right? And so that part of you that knows when something's going down, and you're like, something's more serious happening here. I should pay attention to that. And so I drove down to the hospital. And I walked in. And they're like, Doc, here's the films. We're doing the best we can. But he had a spinal cord injury. And it was a C5 quad, which means he was in a wheelchair for the rest of his days. And these are my kids and nephews when they were a lot younger. But he had a hard time picking them up, hugging them. Right? Like, it was, Grandpa, can I ride in the wheelchair with you? You know, like, there were still some things that were not the same as let's go play football. And so I understand firsthand what this does to a family. I understand the financial implications because back then, putting a ADA compliant bedroom and bathroom on the first floor was probably 50 grand 10 years ago. I can't imagine it's probably triple that now, right? And I mean, we're talking basic stuff. This is not whatever, marble and gold and all this. It was just basic things, right? So completely changed our family. And so I was like, I got to figure this out. If I can help one person not have to live through what our family went through, then it's been worth every minute away from my own family, spending time figuring this out, trial and error, until we're winning. Okay? So that's where we're coming from. That's why we do free seminars. That's why I wish we'd have gotten to Diana sooner. Because this kind of stuff does not need to happen in majority of cases. So that led to, I've always kind of been in natural healthcare, but joining forces with all these natural healthcare providers. Right? There's an uprising that's happening. Medical doctors are leaving standard medicine. They're going more into functional nutrition and functional medicine. You might be hearing about that. Regenerative medicine. All these new things are coming out and they're going, this old system is broken. Let's stop living that way. Let's stop tolerating that. And is that why you're here today? You're like, I am fed up with that.
I raised my hand before when I said that's going to change.
There you go. And that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Love that.
Because there's that uprising.
Absolutely.
We're all here.
Right. I love that. Yeah. You can see in your eyes. So you're like, yeah. So like that's what we're part of. We're part of like really helping working with your body and not trying to force something like something it doesn't want to do. Right? And there's a time and a place for medication. I'm not against that, but it can't solve the root issue. It was never designed to do that. So with that in mind, I've been doing neuropathy specifically over 7 years. We've seen over 2,200 cases, figuring out protocols, countless seminars, and now I get to consult with other docs, and work on some tricky cases. There's a little bit of my background with that. And as the natural healthcare providers, right, we're looking at what are the root causes for things. We're not looking at symptom management. Let's do this real quick together. I want to show you how this works. I want to show you what causes neuropathy. Okay, so symptoms would be the red stuff here. Root cause would be down at the bottom. But even what's driving that is, I'll let you do this. Everybody put your hand up like this for me. This would be a little demonstration for you. Really simple to grasp. So your palm is your nerve. All right, you with me so far? The fingers are going to represent the blood vessels that feed that nerve. Okay? Now, if you were to make a fist as tightly as you can and squeeze that for about 10 minutes, might be challenging sometimes, right? What are you going to start to feel?
Numbness.
Yeah, burning, numbness, tingling, right? Why? You can rest your hand.
Because you've had nothing.
Exactly. You're choking off the blood supply and you're starving that nerve of what it needs to operate properly. Right? And if you were choking and starving, you'd let somebody know, right? You'd be screaming, kicking, doing, right? Making a ruckus. And that's what the nerves are doing. They're letting you know. And the way they let you know is pain, tingling, whatever other symptoms you might be feeling, that's alerting the nerve system to, hey, guess what? There's a big problem. Does that make sense? So what causes this are the root causes here. So commonly gut health, immune system. More than half of that lives around your digestive tract. Were you aware of that? So if your guts are not healthy, you can't fight infection as effectively. You can't obviously digest and absorb nutrients that are needed for nerves to heal and function properly. So, and now we kind of get to the next piece then are the macros. Macros are, anybody know what macros are? Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Right? Those are the kind of macro categories for food. All right, so protein is all your, right, animals, fish, things like that. Carbohydrates, we tend to eat too much of that in the U.S. especially. And all the yummy stuff is what? I mean, we've got Fosnot Day, we've got all the fun things around here. Right, so, but, right, the sugar can be very nerve damaging. But those are the macros. They need to be in the right ratios and proportions so your body can do what it needs to do. Micronutrients, those are things like B12, folic acid, lipoic acid, magnesium, right? All the micronutrients that actually function at the nerve. The nerve needs to do its job. Does that make sense? So you can think of it like, in whatever your workplace or corporation, you got your job role. That'd be the macro. And then all of your pens, pencils, paper clips, those are all the things you actually need to do the job. Or tools, what have you. So it's the same thing with macros and micronutrients. The other would be depriving the body of oxygen. So that might be a sedentary lifestyle. That might be actual lung condition. That could be a number of things, depleting oxygen, maybe anemias, right? So things like that. And then a sedentary lifestyle as well doesn't get things moving. And underlying neurological weaknesses, that could be some things that like genetic. So people have a different genetic conditions like Charcot-Marie tooth, various things like that actually cause neuropathy and nerve damage genetically. One thing that's not on here would be toxic exposure from medicines. Some statin drugs actually are known to cause neuropathy. Were you aware of that? It's one thing they don't often tell you, that the statins can actually cause neuropathy. Chemotherapy, well known to cause neuropathy. So again, they can have a time and their place, but sometimes they actually are contributing to what you're feeling. Does that make sense? So we don't get to the underlying cause. We're just trying to staple apples on the tree and make it look nice. That's kind of where that goes, right? All right. So what happens when you get to root cause? Jay and Judy said we're miserable, experiencing a lot of pain in legs. Walking was a challenge. The pain in our feet we thought was due to arch issues turned out to be related to neuropathy. Now I can walk better without pain. Jay came in to see me literally driving backwards. He wasn't driving, Judy was driving. But Jay came in riding backwards in the car because he couldn't sit down, his back was so bad. He was a painter, had to quit his job. Couldn't work. And he needed a lot of work, but we got him back there, and he's doing amazing. And Rick, if anybody wants Rick's phone number, let me know. He said, I'm happy to hand it to whoever wants it. I called him last summer to honor that relationship and said, hey, Rick, so anyone wants your number? Can I hand that out? And he said, Doc, I'm on a glacier in Alaska. Can I call you when I'm back in town? I'm like, Rick, why are you picking up the phone when you're on? But I'm like, of course. But the bottom line is he got to do some traveling again. He got his life back. And his main reason was for his son that has special needs and really needed a full-time caretaker, and he wanted to be that dad. And so Rick did really well. But sleep was big trouble for Rick. Anybody else sleep problems with this? Yeah, super common. And then Sandy, we've seen a lot of progress with my neuropathy. When I first came in, it was bad in shape, couldn't walk, experienced a lot of pain in my legs, but now my right leg is pain-free. My left leg is feeling better, and the treatment is helping, and it's worth every penny. So I share these to show you some regular people that were in your chair not too long ago that are actually winning with this stuff. Get you a little bit of hope back. One thing I've seen with this is people start losing hope. And those can be some dark days, right? Yeah. So, today's measure of success, we kind of covered the first one, the root cause. I want to show you and help you experience our four-pronged approach to winning with this. And then getting some hope back for your healing. And then if it's okay with you, I'll share a special opportunity we've prepared for you guys today. Does that sound like a plan? That's where we're going. So, secret number one is oxygen and angiogenesis. That's creating new blood vessels in the tissue. That's going from here and actually creating new blood vessels to feed the nerve. So, you'll notice June 2nd, the only two acceptable colors in my office are red and white. What are they?
Red and white.
Good job, class. Red and white. So, what do we see here in the torso and hands? Right, that's normal blood flow. It's good heat pattern. What do you have in the feet? Right, but cold. That means blood flow is lacking in the tissue here. 6 weeks later, July 18th of 23. What do you see now? A lot more color coming back, right? Not perfect yet, but way better. Which means more blood flow means we can start to nutrify the tissue and start to heal the nerve up. Make sense? So that's secret number one, is getting the blood supply back to the tissue. Betty. Wow. This is a fun one. So, Betty was one of my first patients in practice. This is 20 years for me now. You're going to see a couple things. The location looks different. That was my office in Lancaster. We moved up this way. And the treatment does not turn your hair white. That's the other thing to notice, okay? But Betty's going to talk about some numbers, all right? When the nerve has lost 85% of its feeling, that's typically the point of no return. There's going to be some kind of permanent nerve damage at that level. Does that make sense? So it's like a plant, and if that plant's wilting, you can change the water, the soil, feed it food, give it sunlight, but if it's too far gone, it's not coming back, right? Same idea with your nerves. So she's going to mention numbers in her story. I want you to pay attention to that. And we'll just start with that. It's about 2 minutes long here. Okay. So I'm here with Betty, and she's been, how long been in the neuropathy program now?
Over 2 months.
About 2 months. Mm-hmm. And you started, and you were pretty high percentages.
Yes, if I'm correct, I'm 88% lost from
88%, right?
the right and 78 from the left.
Yeah, and we weren't really sure, like, I don't know if this is gonna help initially.
Yes.
So tell me, what were you experiencing when you first came in with neuropathy symptoms?
Yeah, extremely restless at night,
Mhm.
and my toes area especially hurt. It was it was hard to define or describe the ache that's there. Sometimes it felt like my feet were freezing, and yet when I touched them, they weren't cold.
Right, that sensation of freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what's been your experience since you knew to start the program?
Well, I don't experience the restlessness or the pain.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that's only with 2 months, and I have time to go yet, so I'm very delighted.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this turns out for you, because I know when we looked at your last set of numbers, you're doing, I think it was less than 40%.
There's 31.
It's 31 on the one side and then
31 on the other.
on the other. Oh, is he?
Yes.
See, you know
Yes.
better than I did. That's great.
That's
So that's a huge change from, 80s.
It is.
That's wonderful.
And I'm so grateful. But the thing that really blesses my heart is my older sister is numb from her knees down and now from her hands to her elbows. And I was hoping I could avoid that. And surely with God's help and your help, I'm doing that.
Yeah, we're really thankful to be part of that. And
Yes.
that we get to be a part of your story. Thanks so much for sharing that. Do I have your permission to share this with other people, other patients, other students, other doctors?
Sure.
Any
Yes,
conditions
indeed.
on sharing them?
No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
thanks so much, Becky.
You're welcome.
All right. That makes sense. So she was put in no return. 2 months later, she got 50% of her feeling back, a little more than that. She's at 30% loss, and then she gained all of her feeling back. You should know the first 2 attempts we had, we just struck out. We got nowhere. And anyway, and then we found the program we're using now, and it's been amazing results. So the next one is a follow-up. I'll let her share that one. Okay, so this is what, about a 6 or so year follow-up.
Yeah.
So tell me what your symptoms are now for the neuropathy.
Well, it's good unless I eat sweets.
Okay?
Then I have misery in my feet.
Gotcha.
Big time.
But otherwise, you don't really need your equipment right now, and you're not really using that as part of your care plan anymore.
Correct.
Just staying on the diet more.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And that's fantastic long-term results so far, especially because your sister was in bad shape.
Yes.
And we've avoided that. That's thank God for that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
For what you do as well.
Bless you. Thank you. 100% resolution. She's non-diabetic. But when she had sugar, her feet hurt. So for her, she's like, don't eat it, right? So that was kind of an easy one for her. But 6 years difference between the two. Has anybody seen long-term results like that that's what we're seeing. When you heal up the nerve, there's no reason to keep treating it. It's better. Now, depending on your scenario, you may need to be doing some maintenance along the way, and your program will, figure that out. But his case is different, but that's possible. Okay? So, who's a little excited about that? Who's still a little skeptical? Yeah, but good. Yeah, but that's possible.
Doc, when she's saying 2 months, that was like every day she came here or once a week she came?
No, great question. We're going to show you that. Yeah, and that's partly why we failed the first 2 times with Betty was we were only doing in clinic. And that's where we ran into trouble. Okay? We'll show you exactly what we did. Yeah. So number 2 is going to be regulating or reducing inflammation. Right? Raise your hand if you've heard that inflammation is like the mother of all the illnesses in our world, right? It's like inflammation is a big deal. Now, with that being said, you want inflammation if you sprain an ankle. That's acute inflammation. It should be there to guard it and protect it. Body does healing and then it goes away and you're fine, right? If that inflammation stays around, that's like having a sunburn on the inside. And who wants that? Right? Like nobody. But that is what can then irritate and inflame the nerves. Things like prolonged stress, global pandemics maybe, and even your own personal life stories. When you're under stress, does it do more of this or more of this? Right? Right. It's fight or flight time. Pathogens. A major one in Pennsylvania is, what do you think? We are number one in the world for Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, Lyme disease is a
That's where
major.
we're going with that.
Yeah.
And for a long time, they would not admit that.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Everybody knew it, but
Yeah, right. Everyone knows it. It's like elephant in the room. But, and there's a specific tick-borne illness called Bartonella that's known to cause neuropathy symptoms. So that's one thing we screen for in the process is, have you maybe had exposure to that also along the lines, okay? So pathogens can be a major one. Processed foods and bad fats. We've been lied to, right? We've been sold that Crisco is okay and margarine is your best friend. Those are literal nerve poisons, all right? So get that stuff if you have it, get it out of your kitchen forever and out of your families forever. Use regular oils, just, olive oil, it's been around for millennia, right? Use the stuff that's been around for a minute. Butter, it's okay. So use the good, healthy fats. Try to avoid the seed oils. But all that is like canola, wouldn't use that. But olive oil, some coconut oil, butter, good, healthy fats like that are great. All right, sugar, obviously a bad one. That's the number one on the list for what causes neuropathy. A diet low in anti-inflammatory foods, or you're eating too many packaged foods. Chemicals, medications we touched on, right? Chemotherapy, statins, for example. Heavy metals. Mercury in the mouth. Mercury is known to actually degrade the nerve, right? It just like melts it away, or the coating around the nerve. So mercury can be bad. Other ones like lead. And here's the kicker. So metal, we now know, can transfer through generations. They did a rat study, and they took one rat and they tagged it with the metal, and then they bred the rat, and 5 generations later, that same metal was in the babies. So when you're pregnant, thankfully there's remodeling that happened. Part of that means the bone starts to get a little softer, right, so you make room for the baby. But then when you soften bone, you lose minerals, and minerals, lead's a mineral, right? And so that goes into the bloodstream and it goes to the baby. And then round and round that goes for generations. So some of the metal you have in your body is actually inherited. Thankfully, unfortunately, it's usually not so that you can do anything with that inheritance other than try to get rid of it. But metals can be a big deal. That's a whole separate other seminar, but you should be aware that toxins can be a big, big deal. Another one is aluminum. And where do they put aluminum in? Any jab you get. Any jab you get is going to have aluminum in it. Okay, so be aware of that. Chronic dehydration. The body's 80% water. You need more water. Most of us are walking around. Estimates are 80% of the population in the U.S. is dehydrated. Okay, we're drinking everything but water. Water, water, water. You drink 1 cup of coffee, you're going to eliminate 2 cups of water. Okay, so just know that caffeine makes that eliminate 2. So there's a lot of things we can talk about hydration. When you apply that and just get rid of inflammation, Isabel did amazingly well. She had type 2 diabetes. She came in, she's literally lost 70 pounds. And she said, Doc, I'm going to send you a bill. And I was like, Isabel, you're doing, what do you mean? And she said, I have to buy an entirely new wardrobe because of you. And I was like, that is fine by me, girl. So, but she literally got her life back. She's no longer type 2 diabetic, completely gone, reversed her diabetes. Neuropathy is gone, completely got her life back. So that's what is possible as well. And she put in the work. And this, obviously, you come to the office, that's not going to be reversing diet. You have to do the dietary changes and do the homework on that one. So that's one thing to tell you too is if you want these kind of results, you got to be willing to put in some effort and work for it. It's not something that just comes to you, right? So I'm going to show you secret number 3, which is accelerated nerve healing. But before we do that, I'm going to get everybody up. We're going to give somebody an opportunity. So balance can be a big deal, right, with neuropathy. And the stats show, and I don't have them perfectly memorized, but the idea is if you have a fall and break a hip, stats are about a year later, most of those people are dead. So hip fractures are a big, 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 big deal. So if we can stop falls, that's right, that would be a win. So let's bring some awareness to where you're at with your balance. So everybody stand up. I'm going to show you a couple of screening tests for balance, and then we'll do them as a group together, okay? So, kind of move this one out of the way. What we're going to do is, don't do it yet, but what we'll do is hands will go on the hips as close together as you can with your feet, and then you're going to close your eyes for 10 seconds. That'll be baseline. Don't do it yet. Everybody's like, oh, ready to go. That'll be baseline. If you pass that one, great. But I want you to notice how steady you feel on your feet. If 10 is, I can do that all day long, and 0 is, I'm about to fall over, right? You might pass the test, but notice how you feel on your feet. Is that fair? That's number 1. If you pass that one, and you want to go to the next one, it's one leg up, hands on the hips, eyes open. 10 seconds. Third one is eyes closed. 10 seconds, okay? So that's our process. If you feel uncomfortable with those at any time, don't feel like you need to participate, but just bring you some awareness to where you think your balance is at. Now, before we do this, everybody look to your left and your right and say, I got your back. All right? So, anybody falling over here? That hasn't happened yet.
Well, with my eyes open.
Yeah. So, you guys ready? All right, I'll time this for 10 seconds. Feet together, hands on the hips. In 3, 2, 1, close your eyes. And open them. Nobody fell over. That's a win. Who felt better than a 5 out of 10 on that? Like I could do that a long time. No hands going up. Maybe 1. Okay. You thought about that was maybe a 6 out of 10.
It was for my PT.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, it was one of my PTs.
That's great. Yeah. And so as you practice these, you can actually improve them. Your brain can improve. That's part of the point. But most of you then felt 5 or less. Then and you're like, this is not my favorite thing. Okay. So if you're comfortable doing the next one, let's try this. There'll be eyes open, hands on the hips, and stand on your strongest leg. You'll bring it right in front of you like that. In 3, 2, 1, bring the leg up.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I
If you
think.
can't do it, don't.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. So we have. Oh, you're still going, Amy. Good. And that's 10. So we had 1 person pass.
Okay.
You passed too. Yeah. See,
You do.
cool. All right. So 2 people passed. See, you guys should be in the front row, not the back row. So for the sake of time, and also just like if you want to practice the other one at home with your eyes closed, feel free. But most everybody failed that first 2. We're gonna kind of go from there. So, who would like to volunteer to get that better? Anybody want to get a treatment today? I don't know. What's that look like? Nothing's gonna hurt. You will. All right. So, first taker. That's great. Yeah, you guys are too slow on the uptake there. So, you all may have a seat. We're going to show you exactly what this looks like. Nancy, come over here for me to stand and face our wonderful audience. Give her a hand. I heard once that I think you get clapped for like maybe a total of 5 times after you graduate high school. So we're trying to makes everybody feel better. All right, so lift your shoulders, relax here. What we're going to do is measure her balance. Does anybody have a phone on them so they can measure time with?
Measure.
Awesome. Ginny's on it. You're our timer, Jenny. You can get the stopwatch going for us?
Well, let me see here.
That's what I didn't
You're
know.
looking at a non-phone junkie.
I wouldn't know how to find any of it.
You got one too?
Timers.
You got a timer?
Okay.
Okay, we got visual timers here. This is like Olympic level timers. So here's the thing. We're going to measure her balance and see you pass the first one fine, right? So we'll go to eyes open, one leg up, but not yet. We're going to check other things too. But since they're ready to go, you're going to tell her when to go, okay? And then obviously you hit stop when you see the foot come down. As soon as the foot comes down, that's a fail. Make sense? All right, you guys ready to time?
Okay.
Okay, when we get to the closest tenth of a second, this is what we're looking for in there, all right? So, Nancy, are you ready? All right, hands on your hips. And Jenny, you say go when you're ready.
Go.
Okay, so we got, what would we get?
Got 2.7.
2.7.
Right.
Right, and that range 2.5, 2.7. So that's our baseline, so we can improve that at all, right? So 100% improvement would be like 5 seconds. And I don't forget that or not. I'm just saying, see what we can have it. Let these relax completely. I'm also going to check range of motion for her. Maybe we don't see balance change. Maybe we see something else improve. Let the shoulder relax completely. Any shoulder things I should know about? Okay, let that relax completely here. Just checking motion. And that one moves really well. Okay? Let this one relax completely. Also moves really well. We're not going to see any change with motion on that. That's doing great. Turn the shoulder or the thumb backwards here and put your elbow in real tight to your side. Hold it in tight. Pull that in. This is one of your major back support muscles, believe it or not. Hold that in tight. And that one's actually not firing properly. That's called the latissimus dorsi. It's a major muscle that goes all the way down to about here, stabilizing your back and shoulder. Okay? Turn this here, pull that in tight again. The left one's fine. You feel that, Nancy? That works great, but the right one's weak. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to check other balance support muscles. I'll have you just sit in the chair for me here. Okay, you made it. And we're going to see how the legs are doing. We're going to check the muscles on the front of the leg, back of the leg for some strength and stability, okay? So you take the first knee here, you're going to raise it all the way up in the air. Hold that up. Don't let me push down. Push up. You're doing great. Do the other one here. So those are pretty good. A little pain with that, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Got it. So I want you to bring the ankle up. Pull the heel back. And that one's weaker. You feel that?
Very.
So we've got muscle in the front of the leg, muscle in the back of the leg. That's okay. The one in the back's not working. You with me? Same thing here. Toe up, pull the heel back. Same thing with that one, also weak. Bring your toe down for me, pull the heel back. So calf, when the toe's down, right, it contracts the calf muscle. So we're testing that one. When the toe's up, it's the hamstring more. So just kind of nuancing the difference in the muscle there. Toe down, pull the heel back. Same thing. So the whole back of your legs aren't firing yet. Okay. Heels on the floor, toes up. I'm going to push down on the tops of the feet. So this would be similar when they had to do the